The music was loud. Colorful lights danced across the walls, and everyone seemed happy. The room was full, decorated with white and gold flowers, just as my sister had always dreamed. I arrived late, with a simple gift and a racing heart. I wasn't sure if I'd be welcome, but I went anyway. I wanted to try, to make amends, to show that, despite everything, I still cared. I stood near the door, inconspicuous. She saw me. She froze for a second. Then she continued smiling at the guests. I thought everything was fine. I walked over to her, took a deep breath, and tried to smile. But before I could say anything, she grabbed the microphone, looked at me, and said firmly, "Don't come back." The DJ immediately stopped the music. The room froze. Everyone looked at me. The silence was brutal. I tried to figure out if she was joking. She wasn't. She was serious, her eyes filled with hurt. I froze. I couldn't react. Part of me wanted to run away. Another wanted to explain, scream, tell her I'd changed, but no one would give me any space. The party, which had seemed like a celebration, became a courtroom, and I was the defenseless defendant. Share this story to reach further, subscribe to the channel, share this video on WhatsApp, and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. I'll be very happy to read each comment. Someone coughed. An aunt whispered something. My father lowered his eyes. My mother looked at me as if asking me not to make things worse, and my sister just turned away. The whole scene lasted maybe 2 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I was still holding the gift. My hands were shaking. My eyes were burning. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't just a birthday. It was a reckoning. I took a deep breath, swallowed my tears, and left the gift on the table. I said nothing. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I knew no words would be heard at that moment. I left through the same door I'd entered, feeling all the eyes heavy on my back. And there, outside, in the cold of the night, I began to remember what had brought us here. My sister Lauren was always the star of the house, the favorite, the most studious, the most responsible. I was the opposite. I failed, impulsive, full of bad decisions and even worse friendships. For a long time she tried to help me. She wrote letters, defended me to our parents, covered for my absences, but I threw it all away, literally. It was as if, unconsciously, I wanted to prove I didn't need anyone. The truth is, I was jealous of her, but it wasn't her brilliance. It was her stability, her peace, and I hated how, no matter how many mistakes she made, she was always forgiven. As for me, any slip-up turned into a scandal. It grew into resentment, and one day, it boiled over. We had a huge argument. I said things I never should have, cruel things, the kind that leave a mark. And after that, she cut contact, disappeared. For the past 2 years, I'd tried texting, calling, and apologizing. Nothing worked. And when my mom told me Lauren was throwing a birthday party, I saw an opportunity. She didn't invite me, of course, but I went anyway. I thought maybe, just maybe, a gesture of presence would break the ice, but I was wrong. Her hurt was greater than my silent regret. On the way home, her words echoed in my mind. "Don't come back." It destroyed me inside, because for the first time, I was trying to be a better person. But I also understood that sometimes the time for forgiveness is not the same as the time for repentance. And maybe I was too late, or maybe there was still something unresolved, something I didn't even know about. I got home, threw my coat on the couch, and sat in the dark. I replayed everything. My childhood, the fights, the looks, the times she cried because of me, and I asked myself, what had I really done to deserve being thrown out like that? And more importantly, was there still room for repair? Because deep down, I didn't want to lose my sister, but maybe I already had. 2 days after the party, I was still silent. My mother called me and said the family was talking about what happened. Some thought it was an exaggeration. Others understood Lauren's side, but no one spoke to me directly. I was the ghost of the moment, a walking mistake. I decided not to answer anyone, but something gnawed at me inside, a persistent question. What was she hiding? That afternoon, I went through her social media, not to spy, but because I missed her. The sister who watched series with me, who laughed at silly jokes, who would scold me and hug me in the same day. I saw photos from the party, videos, stories. She seemed happy, surrounded, beautiful. But there was one video that stopped me in my tracks. It was weeks old. She was talking on a podcast, and that's when everything started to make sense. In the excerpt, she said, "People think forgiveness is forgetting, but it's not. I forgave my brother, yes, but that doesn't obligate me to keep him around. My heart sank. I paused and rewound the video 3 times. His absence gave me peace, and I'm not willing to lose that just because he decided to show up now with flowers in his hand. I listened silently, but inside, I screamed. I'd never understood how she viewed my absence. I'd always thought my return would be a good thing, a relief, a chance to start over. But now I saw, for her, the end was the beginning, and perhaps my presence would bring more pain than healing. Still, I couldn't accept it, because if she had truly forgiven me, why did it hurt so much to hear, "Don't come back"? I stared at the screen for hours, flicking through the video, analyzing every gesture, every pause, and I noticed something strange in the depths of her speech, a hesitation, a voice that trembled slightly, as if despite everything, there was still a space, a final thread connecting us, and it was that thread that made me get up the next day and make a decision I'd been putting off for years. That morning, I opened an old folder on my computer. There were all the records from the darkest time of my life, police reports, fines, screenshots of messages, dismissal emails. It was my dossier of failures. For years, I avoided looking at it. I guarded it like someone hiding a wound that still bleeds. But now, I knew that only by facing it all would I have any chance of truly healing. Reviewing those documents, I began to understand something profound. My sister didn't hate me for who I was, but for what I did with what she tried to give me. The trust, the hope, the help. Every time she defended me, I was disappointed. And still, she persisted. Until one day, she got tired. Not for lack of love, but for self-preservation. And for the first time, I saw it clearly. I remembered the time she skipped the school dance to pick me up drunk from a party, or the late night she stayed by my side at the hospital after a fight I'd caused, and how, even through everything, she held my hand. My God, how blind I'd been. How selfish. Her life was moving forward while she was stopping for me. And I thought it was all sisterly stuff, but it was sacrifice. It was love. I started writing. A letter. Not with ready-made apologies, but with everything I'd never said. I wrote about my guilt, about the shame eating away at me, about the time I'd wasted trying to play tough. I told her how much I missed her laughter, her voice calling me an idiot in a loving way. And above all, I wrote that I didn't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to be understood. I ended the letter with a simple sentence. If your heart ever allows it, I'll be here. But if it doesn't, I'll still keep trying to be someone you'd be proud to have around. I folded the letter, put it in an envelope, and dropped it in her mailbox. No name, no return address, but she would know, because no one else wrote to her with the crooked handwriting that only I had. After leaving the letter in the mailbox, I couldn't sleep for 3 days. Every notification on my phone made me freeze. Did she read it? Did she tear it up? Did she throw it away without even opening it? Her silence hurt more than any scream, because silence makes you imagine everything, and my mind wouldn't stop for a second. My mom said Lauren had been acting strange since the day of the party. Quiet, thoughtful, but she didn't comment on the letter. It destroyed me, because I had poured my soul into it. It was all I had, but at the same time, I knew true forgiveness isn't demanded. It either comes spontaneously, or it doesn't. And this waiting was my part of the process. My punishment, perhaps, or my purification. One random afternoon, I received a text from her number. It just said, "I read." That was it. 2 letters that made me cry like a child. It wasn't an invitation. It wasn't a response, but it was something. It was proof that she hadn't completely erased me. It was a thread, again, and I clung to it like someone grasping a twig in the middle of a shipwreck. Because sometimes, a grain of reply is all you need. But in the following days, nothing. No new messages, no reaction on social media. It was as if she'd opened a crack and closed it again. And in this back and forth, I began to question whether I should have shown up at the party. If my presence hadn't reopened wounds, she was finally healing. The pain of feeling guilty for existing was something I thought I'd overcome, but it came back with a vengeance. I thought about replying, sending another letter, showing up again, but I did nothing. I forced myself to wait, because learning to respect other people's time, even when you're at your lowest, is the greatest sign of change there is. And if my sister wanted to continue her silence, I would respect that, even if it cost me entire nights of regret. It was a Tuesday night when my phone rang, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but I did. It was her. The voice was dry. "Do you have 10 minutes? I answered yes, my voice breaking. I locked myself in my room. I sat on the floor and waited. She began directly. Was the letter sincere? I answered with all my heart. That's what I should have said years ago. She took a deep breath. She said she didn't want an apology. She wanted clarity. She wanted to know why, of all the people in the world, I always hurt her the most. And I was silent for a while, because that was the question I'd been avoiding. The truth? Maybe because she always stayed. Because even when everyone else gave up, she stayed. And when someone always stays, you end up testing the limit until you break. I told her this. No frills. She cried. So did I. It was an intense, heavy, real 10 minutes. No one there was trying to win an argument. We were trying not to lose what was left. And in that silence between the words, between the tears, something broke. Or rather, something opened. A crack in the wall that had separated us for years. At the end of the call, she said, I don't promise anything, but now I understand. And understanding is the beginning. I thanked her, without insisting, without forcing anything else. Because sometimes the best act of love is to give space. And I hung up the phone, my heart beating slowly, but with a lightness I hadn't felt in a long time, as if the world could still be a place of new beginnings. That night, I wrote in my notebook, if she gives me one more minute in the future, I'll make it count as a year. And I slept. For the first time in weeks, I actually slept. Because even though forgiveness hadn't arrived yet, I felt it was on the way. The following week, I woke up to a text from her. Short, direct, but powerful. Can you come over tomorrow at 5 p.m.? My heart raced. I repeated the phrase about 20 times in my head. It was the first time in years she'd asked me to be around. She didn't say why. She didn't explain anything. But I accepted immediately, without hesitation. Because sometimes, the simple act of calling someone back is a miracle in itself. I spent the next day restless. I didn't know what to wear, what to say, whether to take something or go empty-handed. In the end, I chose to go light. Light in luggage, but heavy in intention. I arrived promptly at 5 p.m. She opened the door herself. He didn't smile, but he didn't avoid me either. She was different, thinner, more serious, but she was still her, my sister, and that was enough. She led me into the living room. It was just her, me, and a box. We sat down. She pointed to the box and said, I found this last month. It's yours. When I opened it, I gasped. Inside were old letters I'd written to her as a teenager. Our childhood notes, drawings, even a CD with songs we'd recorded together. I didn't even remember it, but she'd kept it all, even after everything. She had. She looked at me and said, You weren't all pain. You were also the good, and I'm trying to remember that. It was impossible to hold back the tears. Not hers, nor mine. We sat in silence for a few minutes, just feeling the weight of memory between us. It was as if, in that moment, she was saying, I still miss who you were, and I wanted to scream that someone is still here. As she left, she said, I still don't know what we are, but thank you for not giving up. And there, on the sidewalk in front of her house, I understood that brotherly love isn't about always being right. It's about persisting when everything seems lost. And that day, I was given a chance, not to forget the past, but to build a new future on it. A few weeks later, my mom invited us over for family dinner. It was informal, with no particular reason. But when I arrived, I saw everyone there. Cousins, uncles, even people I hadn't seen in years. And to my surprise, Lauren was there too, sitting in the corner, discreetly. When our eyes met, she simply nodded. She didn't run away, and that was it for me. During dinner, the chatter began. Light jokes, indirect questions. Have you two worked it out? Someone asked. I was about to answer, but my sister beat me to it. She said calmly, We're in the process. And everyone laughed in relief. But I knew this. Coming from her was huge. It was the first time she'd spoken about us with anything other than a hurt tone. In the middle of the night, my mother made a toast. She thanked everyone for coming. And suddenly, she turned to me and said, and to my son, for coming back with an open heart. I was speechless. I looked at Lauren. She didn't look away. And in her eyes, there was something new. Recognition. Maybe not forgiveness yet, but a kind of acceptance. From someone who understands that love is also an act of courage. After dinner, she took me aside. She said, You've had your moment of falling. Now, have your moment of rebuilding. But take your time. Don't make any promises. Just be. That stuck with me. Because for the first time, She demanded nothing. She demanded nothing. She just asked me to be real. And that, coming from her, was more liberating than any excuse or absolution. That night, as I lay in bed, I understood that forgiveness doesn't come all at once. It comes in pieces, in glances, in silences, in short conversations. And I was willing to continue, even without guarantees. Because sometimes, true love doesn't have an, "I forgive you." It just has an, "I'm trying." And that is all. A few days after dinner, I received an envelope at my building's reception desk. No return address, just my handwritten name. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was hers. My hands began to sweat. I sat on the couch before opening it. Inside was a photo of us as children, with a dedication on the back. "This is the brother I remember." And along with it, an invitation. She was launching a new project and wanted me to come. I was shocked. Lauren had always been reserved about what she did. Her inclusion of me, even if only as a guest, meant something. I put on my best outfit. I arrived at the event 30 minutes early. It was a social project for young people from vulnerable communities, focusing on mental health. When I saw everything set up, I understood. She had transformed pain into purpose, and that inspired me deeply. During the event, I sat in the back. I didn't want to steal the spotlight, but halfway through her speech, I heard my name. She said, her voice breaking, that part of her strength came from her family's failures. And sometimes, the ones who break you also teach you how to mend. Her eyes found me in the crowd, and in that moment I understood. It wasn't just forgiveness, it was reconnection. It was care, albeit timidly. Finally, she came to me. She hugged me. It was quick, but intense. She said, "Thank you for coming." I replied, "Thank you for letting me stay." She smiled sideways. That way only she did when she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. And for me, that was enough. Because some things don't need to be said to be understood. And that gesture was worth more than 1,000 conversations. On the way home, I looked at the photo again. The two of us, on our bikes, laughing, covered in dirt. That image was now more than a memory. It was a symbol of a childhood wounded, but alive. And I promised there, again and silently, I will never turn my back on this bond again. Even if it still takes time, even if it never returns to its former self, still, I will be there. 2 weeks later, I got a call from the local press. They were doing a story about siblings who overcame conflict and rebuilt bonds. Someone had suggested our story. At first, I hesitated. I thought Lauren would never agree. But to my surprise, she said yes without thinking. She said it was important to show that real new beginnings exist, and that they are slow, yes, but possible. On the day of the interview, we stood side by side. The first question was direct. "When did you know you were ready to start over?" She took a deep breath and replied, "When he stopped asking me for forgiveness and started building trust." That pierced me, because it was true, and it was there, in that studio, with lights and cameras trained, that I knew our story could help others too. The article came out on Sunday. Hundreds of messages poured in for both of us. Young people saying they finally understood that time and presence heal. Parents asking for tips on reconciliation. Siblings trying to reconnect. The pain that once separated us now united other families. And this gave new meaning to everything we'd experienced. The fall, the anger, the silence, her scream at that party, everything. My sister invited me for coffee. She said she was scared, but happy with the response. And she said something I'll never forget. "Maybe you were my biggest mistake, but now you're also my choice." It shattered me, because being chosen, after being rejected, is the greatest form of forgiveness there is. And in that coffee, between sips and suppressed tears, she gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever: belonging. I left that encounter knowing nothing would ever be the same. But also, that wasn't a bad thing. It was liberating. Because when two people choose to start over, it's not to return to the past. It's to create a new kind of love. A conscious, mature love, built on scars. And that kind is the strongest of all. After the interview, we started seeing each other more. It wasn't always. It wasn't perfect. But it was new. She'd invite me for quick lunches, short meetings between meetings. And in those breaks from routine, I rediscovered who Lauren was without the filter of hurt. She was funny, smart, practical, much stronger than I remembered, and I began to admire her in a new way. She was watching me too. I could see it in her eyes. It was as if she wanted to believe I'd truly changed, but still had reservations. And I understood, because pain takes a long time to let its guard down. So instead of promising change, I showed it. I was there. When we agreed on something, I was there. When she needed help, I didn't disappear. It was simple, but that's what built the bridge again. We started creating little traditions. Every Friday, coffee. Every month, a walk just for us. And in those moments, we spoke little about the past. It was more about the present, about how she was handling work, about my projects, about lighthearted things. And when the silence came, it no longer weighed heavily. It was the silence of someone who knows, we're fine, we're here, and that was enough. One of those Fridays, she handed me a small box. Inside, a keychain with our childhood photo. So you can remember that I never forgot who you were. I just needed to protect myself from who you became. That broke me. And I promised, I'll never make you hide from me again. She smiled, and that smile was the final straw the past needed. Sometimes, what destroys a relationship isn't just what happens, but what we fail to notice. And I had stopped seeing Lauren as a person. I only saw my guilt, my anger, my pain. But now, I saw her whole self, and that made me want not only to be forgiven, but to be worthy of her love. A love that, even though hurt, chose to start over. A year after the party that blew up, my mom organized another celebration. It was her and our dad's wedding anniversary. Same venue, same music. When I heard about the venue, my first reaction was panic. That image still stung. My sister screaming, the deathly silence, the disapproving looks. But Lauren was clear. I want you there. This time, do it right. I arrived early. I saw everything being set up. The decorations, the stage, the lights. But now, none of that scared me. I walked to the center of the room. I stood, alone. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. I relived the scene from that day. But instead of running away, I faced it. Because to heal, we need to stop running. And in that moment, I was ready. During the party, everything went well. The family was excited and united. And, in an unexpected moment, Lauren took the microphone. She looked at me and said, "Over the past year, I've learned that some stories don't end when we scream. Some begin again when someone decides to stay." And she pointed at me. Everyone looked and started applauding. And I cried. But this time, with relief. It was as if the cycle had finally closed. The room that had once been the scene of my shame was now the stage of my redemption. My sister came to me, hugged me tightly, and said, "Now, yes, welcome back." And in that embrace, I felt everything. My childhood, my pain, my distance, my return. Everything together, falling apart and being reborn, like a new chance. That day, I returned, but not the same person who was cast out. I returned a man, a brother, a present. I returned with scars, yes, but with the knowledge that no pain is in vain when it is transformed into a bridge. And there, in that room, I understood once and for all, sometimes forgiveness isn't spoken, it's lived, and lived with presence. After that event, our relationship became lighter, more mature. We knew each other's limits. We knew how to respect time, space, and silence. And that, for us, was golden. One day, during one of those Friday coffees, she said to me, "You know what made me let you in again?" I shook my head, and she replied, "It was when you stopped convincing me and started listening to me." That stuck with me like a tattoo, because for years I shouted my apologies, my versions, my pain, but I never truly listened to hers. And now I listened. When she said she didn't want to talk about something, I respected it. When she needed to be alone, I didn't take it personally, because we don't heal those we love by trying to hurry someone else's pain. True healing is when we sit by their side and stay, without demanding anything. During that same conversation, she handed me a letter. She said she'd written it months ago, but only now did she feel I was ready to read it. I waited until I got home, sat on the living room floor, and opened it. It was powerful, painful, true. She spoke of everything she felt at the time of our breakup. She spoke of exhaustion, of the fear of never recognizing me again. But at the end, she wrote, "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I had to give up on you for a while." I cried. I sobbed. Because there, in that letter, I understood something no conversation had shown me, that she suffered too. That while I was drowning in guilt, She was drowning in disappointment. And that, even so, she found a way to forgive me without losing herself. And that, coming from her, was the greatest gift I've ever received. I finished reading and sent a simple message. "You're my best chance to do everything differently." She replied, "Then do it. But take your time, one day at a time." And that's what we've been doing ever since. One step at a time. A bond carefully rebuilt. Because when love decides to stay, even after the damage, it's never shallow again. Today, I look back and no longer see shame. I see a journey. A tough one, yes, but a necessary one. My sister isn't just a part of my life. She's the reason I discovered who I am. Because it was in her that I saw, for the first time, what steadfast love is. A love that says enough, not out of hate, but out of self-love. And by saying no, when I was most forced to say yes, she saved me. That phrase she shouted, "Don't come back," wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the journey back. It was the mirror that forced me to face who I was, and more importantly, who I wanted to become. She never promised me I'd go back to the way I was before, and I never asked, because now I know what matters isn't going back to the past, it's deserving the present. We remain different, but together. And today, when someone asks me about my greatest achievement, I don't talk about jobs, money, or medals. I talk about reconnection, being able to look into my sister's eyes and know we're whole. I talk about being seen as a mistake and transformed into someone trustworthy. I talk about the love that withstood anger, time, and pride. For those who have heard all this so far, I'll leave you with just one truth. Not every no is a wall. Sometimes it's a bridge that hasn't been built yet, and building one requires time, effort, and genuine presence. But it's worth every second, because when someone you've hurt looks at you with peace, that's where your true victory begins. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel, share this video on WhatsApp with someone you love, and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. I read everything, and every comment is a chance to continue connecting real stories, like mine and my sister's.